Well, time to get you a look at some of today's business news. I'm joined by France 24's Cole Stangler. Hello to you, Cole. The new monthly job report is out in the US. The numbers, has to be said, aren't very encouraging.
That's right, Rochelle. Analysts were anticipating over 400,000 new jobs will be added in the end, just 245,000 jobs added for the month of November. Unemployment rate did fall slightly as expected, but that's not for necessarily good reason. It's because people are dropping out of the labor force, meaning they're not even counted as looking for work. Really the latest sign that the recovery is slowing in the United States is now the fifth straight month of reduced job gains since really the peak of the coronavirus crisis. That being said, didn't seem to have too much of an impact so far on the markets, in large part because investors are hoping that the bad job news could actually put pressure on Congress to approve some more stimulus. So let's start off here with the European markets with some gains here to close out the week. The FTSE up around 0.9%. Shares on the DAX up around 1/3%. And the CAC 40 here in Paris up around 0.6%. Gains on Wall Street so far as well. The Dow was up around 1/6%. Some slightly larger gains on the S&P 500. The NASDAQ as well, up just over 0.5%.
Now, Cole, we've been hearing for months about this possible new stimulus deal in the US. I mean, is it finally going to get done this time around?
Well, you do have a bipartisan agreement that seems to be taking shape here. Should be said, this one would appear to be a lot smaller than the ones that we'd seen on the table before the election. This time, the number is around $900 billion. It would include things like unemployment relief, also aid for states, but very critically, would not include another round of those $1,200 stimulus checks that we saw as part of previous aid packages in the U.S. Lawmakers do say they are pushing to have a deal in place by Monday, tentatively. Of course, we'll have to wait and see, but signs do seem to suggest that we actually are moving towards a deal after really a run there where there really wasn't much talk of stimulus. It now seems to be back on the agenda.
All right, and just finally changing gears totally, our top story tonight, Cole, has been Brexit and these ongoing, never-ending negotiations. Walk us through, if you will, some of the sticking points in those negotiations.
So one of the big ones, Rochelle, has to do with what have been called fair competition rules. The EU would like to have similar rules, ideally, on both sides when it comes to things like workers' rights, environmental questions, and state aid as well. It's this idea of having a level playing field, because the concern in Brussels is that you don't want to have a situation in which the UK is sort of a low regulation rival that's right next to the EU, a situation in which the British government's pumping in state aid to British companies. That's not good for the EU. The British point of view essentially is that, it voted for Brexit. It's moving towards Brexit. It should be able to have flexibility to impose the rules that it wants. That's the debate on that question. Another big issue is this question of fishing rights. It's not a huge part necessarily of either the European economy or the British economy, but politically, symbolically, it's a very sensitive issue. Now, the EU wants maximum access, really, for its boats to be able to continue fishing in UK waters, something that Europeans have had for decades. We've seen the French government been pushing fairly aggressively on this question as well. And the UK, again, does not want the status quo. They voted for Brexit. Brexit is about changing the status quo. So the UK has been pushing back against that. The sides are looking for a compromise, of course. But right now, there hasn't been a deal because the EU, again, wants to maintain broad access to British waters for fishing. And the UK, by contrast, wants to have less access. So negotiations still going on that point. That said, the clock is ticking. As you've said previously, under the current Brexit deal, both sides have to reach an agreement and ratify an agreement by December 31st. If not, if there is no deal, we could see a lot more economic damage coming after that into the next year.
Indeed, Colin, we know that there will absolutely be no deal this Friday evening because talks have been paused yet again. We're watching this space, though. Thanks for our business roundup.